Hi. So the chapter that we're going to talk about today is chapter 25. It is on the record or off the record. And the book that we're looking at is Media Ethics at Work. And this story talks about a journalist who wanted to talk about a story where a professor wasn't filing their students' grades. And professors are supposed to file the students' grades within 2 weeks of the final exam. So that way they can do their final grades and actually graduate. And so this professor just wasn't putting in grades. And so reporter Jennifer Collins was convinced that this one professor missed deadlines and wanted to dig into the story a little bit bigger. A little bit more. So she looked at the grade reports of the professor and actually realized that he failed to put in grades for 3 classes. One student she actually interviewed and said that he wasn't able to graduate because he couldn't have that credit for that class because you need that credit to graduate. And so that was a big deal for that student. And so then as she went into the story a little bit more, she wanted to interview the professor, which she did. And so while interviewing the professor, she wanted to make it very clear that she was going to try to audio record him, and wanted to make sure it was going to go on the record and it was going to be in the story. So she kept saying for the record and just for the record to help her case in making the story. So during the interview, he kind of didn't really care. He felt like his reason for not putting the grades in was because he wanted to protest against the university because they weren't satisfying his needs in the way that he wanted to teach. So he felt like he should just withhold grades for students, and that will help him in the end for him. So that's why he decided to not post the grades. After the interview, he did tell her that he did post the grades right before she came in. And so that was one of her questions at the very end, was when do you plan on filing the grades? And he told her that he did it right before she came in. So, and after doing research and all that, she realized that 73 students from previous semesters didn't have grades in his class because he decided to protest against school because of things that he didn't like. So a little bit later, he calls her and says that he doesn't want her to use any of his comments that he made, and that he will, and that if she does, that he will sue her and the school and the Sun, which is the place where they're publishing the story. So she didn't really know what she could do. So then she went to her advisors and she went to her editor to figure out what she could do. And from a legal standpoint, after talking to them, she realized that she had the go-ahead to put his comments in there because she made it very clear to him that he was on the record over and over again while she was interviewing him. So she made it very clear that she was going to put his comments in the story. So then they went through different scenarios of how to write the story with having him in it, or even not writing the story. They felt like not writing the story wasn't an option because it was such a big topic for students, because students' grades are very important. And so they felt like not writing the story was not an idea. So then they went through all the other scenarios, and they felt like the best one was to publish a story with his comments and to let him know that they were going to be published with his comments. So she tried to call him, she tried to talk to him, and all of that, and he basically said over and over again that if she published a story that he was going to sue her. And so she was like, okay, and she did it anyway. She published a story. She felt like it just needed to be heard. She never got sued. Neither did the school. Neither did the son. And her story was heard. Students' voices were heard. And it went into effect that professors will get punished if they withhold students' grades. And so after so many offenses, they can be terminated. And so that was another big thing that helped in the end. She also felt like she was being bullied in a scenario of him trying to figure out who made those comments or accusations against him, and he wanted to know who said it so that way he could talk to them. And she felt like whenever she said no, he kept pushing and pushing, and so that was the bully scenario. And she just felt like he just was pushing really hard. And so she did everything right. She did everything right. So, yeah. I really enjoyed this story. It kind of will help in different scenarios if you're in a scenario in this way. So if I ever feel like I'm in this scenario, I know what I can do. So, yeah.